So this is the Zwift Ride. This is a brand new indoor bike setup made by Zwift. So I've been riding Zwift since the beta years, which is well over a decade old at this point, and that's kind of mind-blowing. I used trainers that were wheel-on trainers that weren't smart trainers whenever it first came out with just a cadence sensor. Then I upgraded to a kicker made by Wahoo, which is a smart trainer that uses the wheel off. It looks really similar to this, but I used my regular bike. And one of the things I really wanted to get away from was just using my regular bike as a setup, because having to take it off the trainer and put it back on the trainer and then also make sure the indexing was just right was kind of a pain and got old after a while. I want to go over some of the details of what I like about this bike, but also one major detail that I'm just not a big fan of, and that happens to be the handlebars. So during this process, I'm going to upgrade to a Redshift handlebar that has wide flares that's going to match my outdoor gravel bike. And I think for me, it's going to make this Zwift bike the ultimate indoor trainer. So before we install the brand new Redshift bars, let's go over what you would get if you picked up a Zwift Ride for yourself. You're going to get 3 boxes. One is going to contain the kicker core, which is the trainer. And the second box is going to be the Zwift Ride frame. And then the third box is going to be the handlebars. Assembling this is really easy. Zwift really has this down, gives you really clear instructions, and has made this as easy as possible. One thing I really appreciate about the Zwift Ride is the aesthetics. This thing looks really good in a workout room. It's really clean, and it's all 100% usable. There's not one thing on the Zwift Ride that isn't really functional. They even put this nice little rubber mat on the top for remotes and your phone. Now, looking at the grip tape that came on this bike, I really like it, so I feel kind of bad getting rid of these bars, but I've got some Redshift tape that I'm going to be putting on there that's just as nice, probably even more premium. Now, one of the big things about the Zwift Ride is that you have these controls right on your shift levers or your brake levers. There's going to be all kinds of buttons on them. You're going to get left, right, up, down buttons on your left side, and on your right side, you're going to get your standard video game style buttons with like a Y, a Z, an A, or an B. These buttons are going to allow you to navigate through the menu and also allow you to use your power-ups and give ride-ons while you're going through the Zwift world. On each side of the brake levers, you're going to have multiple buttons. These buttons are going to allow you to shift, and you can set this up to feel really familiar to you. And what's really nice about the shift buttons on the side of the levers is that you can kind of customize these to feel more like your bike that you would ride outside. And then also, these are all 100% electronic. Now, some of the other cool features on the Zwift Ride is that there's quick adjustability. It's just a simple 6mm Allen key, and it's built into the frame. And you'll also have markings on every single point that moves up and down, like the handlebars, the stem, and the seat post. So you can basically dial this in, take note of what settings you had, and if you have somebody else in your family who also wants to use this Zwift Ride, they can figure out what their settings are, and you can quickly change them back and forth and always know that you've got yours dialed in, and whoever else is riding this Zwift frame has theirs dialed in. And added on to the kicker core is the Zwift Cog, and that's what kind of makes the whole virtual shifting possible. This is just basically a single speed setup that you just rely on the virtual shifting to change the tension whenever you're going up or down hills in the virtual world of Zwift. With this allows it to be aligned absolutely perfectly. So the chain noise that you get on this is really minimal. So if you're looking for a super quiet ride, this is probably the quietest setup that you can possibly get. Now you might ask yourself, why am I changing out these handlebars? The Zwift handlebars look absolutely fine, and they are. If you're used to a road bike with zero flare on the drops, then these will probably work just fine for you. However, I kind of ride like a cowboy sometimes, and my knees go out to the side. I know it's not perfect form, but it is what it is. And I'm so used to having my drop bars have flare on them that if I don't have that, I have a tendency of hitting my knees on the drop bar, and it's super frustrating at times. So I wanted to match exactly the way that my main outdoor gravel bike was set up, and using Redshift bars with the wide flare of 25 degrees will make it match absolutely perfectly. Not only that, I also wanted to integrate the cruise control grips that Redshift offers. This is just to add some additional comfort. I also use these on my gravel bike for my outdoor riding and fell in love with this setup. It's super comfortable, for those long rides. And I think having this indoors will be an added benefit. Now, to make this process a little bit easier and cleaner, I'm going to take the Zwift ride out to my garage where all my tools are. But while I'm doing that, I wanted to let you guys know that Zwift did offer me a coupon code for you guys to use on the Zwift ride or the Zwift frame or a Kicker Core product. So if you guys are interested in saving 10% on one of those purchases, check out my description down below. And I've also got a link there. So you want to make sure you use the link and the coupon code together. That lets Zwift know that you came from my channel, and it does give me a little bit of a kickback. It is an affiliated link, but there's no cost to you, and you can save 10% on your Zwift ride, Zwift frame, or your Kicker Core product. So these are the Redshift kitchen sink bars, and they have some really unique features to them. They've got a 20mm rise, so it's going to give you a little bit more upright feel than just a standard flat bar. Also, it's got a 7-degree sweep, which means that it kind of comes back just a little bit towards you. And then the 25-degree flare. And the flare is really what I'm looking for, but I really do appreciate the 20mm rise. That does add to the actual feel of this. But that's not that big of a deal on the Zwift ride because you can raise and lower the entire stem on this super easy. So having that rise isn't that big of a deal, but having the flare is exactly what I'm looking for. So uninstalling these bars is super simple. You probably will already know how to do this for the most part, considering that whenever you get the Zwift ride, you have to install the bars. It's not really much different, and it's actually a lot easier than what it is for your standard outdoor like road bike or gravel bike. One, you don't have any cables other than one USB-C cable on each side that you're having to deal with. However, I will give you a big tip. Whenever you go to loosen up the actual shift levers on here, I just highly recommend fully unthreading them. It just makes it a lot easier whenever you're removing those levers, just to fully undo that screw. And then whenever you go to reinstall it, it also makes it easier for that too. I'm not sure what happened here, but my audio kind of messed up. So just wanted to show you guys exactly what this would look like with these Zwift bars off and the Redshift bars. You can really see the flare, and you can also see that 20mm rise. These things are going to be pretty sweet. All right, let's go ahead and start the install process. And it's basically in reverse, and everything should go together smoothly. However, I did find that having wider bars does cause one problem with the Zwift ride. And that is the USB-C cable that comes off of the shifter that you plug in to either charge or always have power running to the shifters, which that's another thing. These have batteries built in, so you just have to charge them and you don't have to always have a cable plugged into them. But for me personally, I always just leave a cable plugged in because why not? This bike is stationary. I've got a plug right in front of my bike. I just leave it plugged in all the time. But these cables are too short with these wider bars. Now, Redshift offers all kinds of different lengths when it comes to these bars, but you can really see in that side-by-side that I just showed you how much wider these are. Now, I picked up the 47cm wide bars, but you can get 41cm, 44cm, 50cm, and 53cm from Redshift, so you have a lot to pick from. But the 47cm is what I ride on my gravel bike, so that's what I wanted to go with. And these USB-C cables are just a little bit too short to fit nicely in their little kind of plastic holders that sit on each side of the stem. You just have to know whenever you go to apply the grip tape to make sure that you have these things exposed enough to where you can actually plug in that USB-C cable to either A, charge them or permanently have power running to them. Okay, so getting the hoods on and off was a little bit trickier than what I've experienced in the past. And I found that just removing the bolt that's behind here all the way is much easier. You can actually see through this bolt. So if you get the actual clamp on the bar and then you line it up by looking through the bolt into where the screw head is on the clamp, it makes it a lot easier. Now for this part, you are going to want to take your time. You're going to want to make sure that you get these things lined up as best as possible. Also, one other thing about Redshift bars, what's really nice is they put all kinds of lines and dots all over their bars, so you can see right here there is a couple of dots and there's one really big dot right here. Well, if I let that kind of rubber seal lay there, you can see that it lines up pretty close to that with just a little bit of a gap. All I have to do is go over to the other side and make sure that that's similar. This one looks like it's a little bit higher, so I'm going to lower it just slightly. So the cruise control grips are really cool. It's drop grips and top grips. And basically you've got kind of, they look similar to what you'd see like on like a mountain bike for ergonomic grips, but they go on your drop bars. And then there's also these little pads that you put underneath the top of your bars and gives you extra padding up there. I tried these this year and absolutely loved them. Now, applying these cruise control grips are really easy. You just have a couple of pieces of sticky that will actually go on the top cruise control grip, and then you're going to wrap tape around it once you place it on the bars. Just make sure you've got it set to where it's comfortable for your palm to rest on there, and that's all you really have to do. It does take a little bit more time to dial these in, but once you get it dialed in, you're ready to start taping up your bars. Now, since we are going to be using the bottom cruise control grips, you don't have to tape all the way down to the bottom of the bars. You basically start where a little white line is on the Redshift bars. This is an indicator that they put on here. Now, when it comes to applying the cruise control grips on the bottom, I highly recommend, even though you don't need to, but I highly recommend putting one wrap of electrical tape around the bottom bar tape that you put on there. That way these grips slide real easily up onto the grip because there is a little bit of overlap. Also, another key tip is use isopropyl alcohol, spray it on the bars, spray it in the grip, and it'll make that grip slide on real easy. Tighten it up with a 3mm Allen key and then put your end cap on and you're ready to start on the other side. Okay, the bars, the cruise control grips, and the bar tape are completely done. Look at this. This looks absolutely awesome. I almost feel like Zwift needs to partner up with Redshift because this makes this bike look so much more beefy and tough. I absolutely love these things, and I really recommend if you can get your hands on a set of Redshift bars and these cruise control grips, do it right away. So I've done one ride with these grips on and they did not disappoint. They are super comfortable. The drops feel absolutely awesome. I'm not normally a drop rider kind of guy, but with these cruise control grips, it just feels so comfortable and natural to be in the drops that I find myself going to the drops more frequently than I used to. And the top bar is so padded and so comfortable. Not only that, that little cruise control grip on the top kind of gives you extra kind of different positions for your hand to set. So if you guys want to get a hold of the Zwift bike or the cruise control grips with the Redshift bars, I'll have all those links below. As usual, get out there and ride your bike.